right, guys, I'm Theresa Ivancik, and I'm glad to be on this podcast with you guys. I've been in the industry for 15 years. I'm doing my second Olympia this year. I won 3 pro shows, in the past. We just won Indy in May. We own our own gym, have a t-shirt company. I coach online. I coach in-house. I do motivational speaking. I speak at colleges, do many podcasts, and that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and you say it's pretty much it. It's just like there's so much obviously that you have going on. And
Mm-hmm.
with bodybuilding being such an all-encompassing sport, even more than a sport, it's a lifestyle. How do you manage to have all that going on and still be at the top?
That's a question I even ask myself like anymore, because there's a lot of people that like I follow, and it's eat sleep train for them. They don't run a business, they don't have clients and all that other thing. So it's been really a challenge like the last, few, months, just to try to balance everything out. We're in the middle of trying to expand the gym, like of all times. We're doing it now. So we've been looking at places, talking with other locations and seeing what we can put in, purchasing equipment and all that stuff. And I still have all my onlines, and I was just doing the interviews for NPC News Online this past weekend in Indy for the NPC Premier Muscle Championships. And I come home and I have like a full email of like all my clients that just checked in. So I have to do them actually what I'm doing in segments. I had to do a portion of the people that did, a Friday and Saturday check in. And then I waited till after the podcast. I'm going to do the Sunday, Monday, and try to just get caught up. But it's finding balance, and really trying to make things work without getting overwhelmed. Stress can get high no matter what anybody does, but it's really trying to balance it out, try to fake and try not to get aggravated, at the same time that you can't get anything done. But I'm famous for to-do lists and post-it notes everywhere. So, but I will get it done. It might not be like super, super fast, but I'll get it done.
Yeah, and it's funny you mention that sense of like, being overwhelmed, the so much going on, so much to do. It's been a crazy kind of week or two here for me, and it's like, much more. I don't want to say I mean, it is more important things going on, but at the same time, it's like you're still trying to get done what you need to do on a daily basis, and stuff that is going. Once these weeks are over, it's like those things are still going to be there. So it's been so hectic, and just when you say that, it's just something I relate to so strongly right now with just trying to figure out, okay, I don't have this time to work out. When am I going to get the workout in? Or I don't have this time to do a podcast or edit or, do some sort of something with the business. Like, when is it going to get done? And
Mm-hmm.
it's very challenging. And like I said, just being really a bodybuilder at the top level, you certainly, you have to be able to prioritize and be able to, like you said, just figure it out and not let the stress get to you, because the stress in and of itself is another factor. It's another thing that bodybuilders have to think about, because it's very important when it comes to, how your body responds to everything.
I mean, you look at checking pictures and things like that, and it's like, if you're honestly, if you have a coach and whatnot, I mean, I coach a lot of people, but it's like when you go to check in with somebody, you better be extremely honest, with what just happened, within those last few days. And it's not just the fact of like, maybe I missed a meal or two, but it's just like your stress levels. Did you miss training? Did you miss cardio? And everybody wants to hide it because they think the coach is going to get mad, and argue with them about it. But the more we know as coaches, the better we can fix or not adjust the diet, because it didn't need adjusted. So the communication levels, I think are like sometimes off, whenever you're going to check in, because you're afraid what they're going to say. But at the same time, like it's just going to help us out better to be on the same communication level, to make the right adjustments.
Yeah. And that's something I found. Like I said, I'm not a competitive bodybuilder or anything, but just working with a coach the last, I think, 10 weeks now, it's like, communication has never been one of my strong suits, as weird as it sounds having a podcast, but like, very, very to myself kind of person. It's just, very different for me having to be like, hey, this is, what's going on. This is, how it's affecting me. And like I said, it's something that I'm not necessarily used to, not accustomed to, just with my personality. And,
Mm-hmm.
but it's something that I have found that you have to be willing to be open about what's going on. Because like you said, it's something to where if you're the coach, you can't make those proper adjustments, if you need to make the adjustments without the full picture.
Yeah, I just did it to my coach. I was like, hey, I'm just letting you know I had a really shitty weekend. I ate once, didn't drink water, like, I mean, it was just because it was what it was. And even, at a top level, competitor, we have good and bad days. Like, we are not perfect. And nor do we stay on a full plan, like for 16 weeks. Like, we miss meals, we miss training, we miss things too. But you just have to like kind of chalk it off and get, flip that switch and then get back on target again. That's pretty much what you need to do.
And I think it's hard for people to hear or to really even believe that that is true, because we see on social media a lot of people, it's the good, it's the, what's going right, instead of oh, I missed a meal, or oh, I didn't get to train my normal routine, or whatever, I didn't get to train at all for whatever reason. Like, even like you said, at the top level, people still have off days. And I think that kind of transparency is so important. I think it goes so far when it comes to not necessarily letting yourself off the hook, because I think that's a good thing, but understanding that like you are human, and that you will face challenges, and even though you might be a bodybuilder, a top level bodybuilder, a top whatever, or even if you're just somebody just getting into fitness, like, you're gonna have off days, you're gonna have times to where you're your plan Z comes into play, and you're not necessarily at the top of your game. And I think, like you said, just having that ability to be transparent is so important, because people are definitely looking to people like you when it comes to uh, like a role model for that.
I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like, most of the top level athletes, like, they act like everything's just perfect, and that's what one thing that I don't want to put out there. I'm not perfect. I do have bad days. Again, most of us don't like to talk about them. We always post the good. And, sometimes you don't want to say anything bad, because then, someone you're going against is, haha, like, I got one up on her kind of thing. So, I mean, but in reality, I mean, we are real. Like, we're human too. We have, like you said, plans that, you could be scheduled all day to do something, and something just flips the switch and you can't get to it. And you can always, like, literally make up a training day and make up a cardio day. I mean, the most important part is you can't make up sleep. So, I mean, that's one of the most important. Take a day and like decrease the carbs down, an off day. But I mean, for the most part, it can be fixed, but it's just, it's the reality of, it's going to happen.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here just for a second. Let me tell you about Smoking Gun Coffee. They're a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to produce a quality coffee at an affordable price. They only buy coffee from small coffee farmers around the world with a cup score of at least 85. Each batch is roasted to order for maximum freshness. They also donate a large portion of their proceeds to organizations that help local communities, veterans, first responders, or you can donate to the foundation of your choice at the checkout by going to www.smokingguncoffee.com. That's SMOKIN Gun Coffee. When it comes to science-backed supplements that taste great, 2NS is your one-stop shop. They truly maximize quality by making their own supplements in-house. With over a combined 90 years of experience, 2NS's team of industry experts has a commitment to research, quality, development, and innovation. The body is sacred, so give it the best. Check out all 2NS has to offer at secondnaturesupplements.com. That's 2ndnaturesupplements.com. Yeah, and I think the sleep thing is something that people are starting to understand more, how important sleep is, and that's something that it's weird that you say that, because I actually had a story post on that a couple days ago. I'm big on sleep. I'm big on, hey, if I can't do these other things, let me at least get the sleep I need. And I'll use Whoop actually to help my track my sleep and everything like that. I'm not necessarily endorsing it, but that's what I use. And I think it's very important for people to have some type of understanding of what sleep does, how to get to sleep, how to stay asleep, how to just optimize sleep, because, we're learning that sleep, if you're not sleeping right, it doesn't matter sometimes how well you're training, or how well you're eating, or how well you're doing anything else. The sleep really is that powerful. It can be the top level of importance when it comes to your health, and of course, being an athlete, your performance as well.
I mean, I've had girls check in with me, and their sleep was completely off, and then they finally get like 8 hours, 9 hours of sleep. They drop 2 pounds. The body's just it needs recovery. Your brain needs to shut off, and you need to decompress, get in those deep REM sleeps, because that's literally how you grow. Most people think a lot of it is like the gym, which actually, if you had to put all three, like the eat, sleep, and train, like all in an order, I'd put the gym last, and then I'd put the food and then I'd put the sleep, because the body's only going to recover and heal, from the rest that you're going to give it. And the food too. I mean, I was in the farmer's market the other day, and this guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, oh my God, that's like a lot of work. That's a lot of gym hours and stuff." And I looked at him like, "Nope, it's actually that right there." And I pointed to the chicken breast because I said most people just think that that's what we do. We just get big by like going to the gym and lifting, but it's really in reality what we're putting in our mouth, and that's what gives you the type of physique that you want. So if you go into, a gym, somebody new, and they say, "Hey, I want to look like this, but I don't want to look like you." Nobody could look like me because no one's going to eat the way I eat, with 3,000, 4,000 calories. So you dictate the body type by what your caloric intake is going to be and how you train, so you get to kind of pick how you want to sculpt yourself, but it's all through food.
Yeah, 100%. So kind of digging into your past a little bit, what got you into the world of fitness, and then what got you into bodybuilding?
So I was kind of like lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to school because I had to for college, with my parents and stuff. And they said, do general studies, and then I did all the things that I was supposed to. And then I hit Spanish and I was like, I'm out. I can't do this. I quit. So I like started just working, at waitress jobs and things like that. I did have an eating disorder, which was bulimia for 7 years. And then I think it was when I worked at the one gym, I got an Oxygen magazine in my hand. And I looked at some of the girls that were in there, and I don't even know the girl who was particularly the girl that I looked at, because this was back in like 2006. And she was a figure girl, and I said, I want to look like that, and I started doing a little bit of research because, again, I didn't have social media. It was just like forums, Google, AOL, like all that stuff. And yeah, it kind of escalated from there. I did get in some trouble. I had some DUIs, I had house arrest. So the interesting fact with that was, knowing that I couldn't leave, we did have a weeder machine in the basement. We had some dumbbells as well. I made it a goal the day that I got off of house arrest that I was going to go compete. Made sure it was okay with the probation officer because I was leaving the state, but it was a goal of mine that I just wanted to do this show. And I got a friend that I really, kind of just knew as an acquaintance. He offered to drive me down to the show, and we did our first show together, and I was kind of addicted, so then I was just like, okay, well, I want to be a trainer, I want to own my own gym, and I want to be a professional athlete. And then it was just kind of like, how do I do this? And we just started kind of like chalking at it, and we were at the one gym that I worked at, and someone mentioned to me, go see Jeff Harlan. Now Jeff is now my fiance of 16 years, and he was our guru in town that knew more about fitness. But he told me that I needed to eat. I was bulimic, so I ran. And I didn't see him again for 7 years. So I kind of just did my own thing, tried to teach myself some stuff. And then we got together 2008, and then we hit every goal that I've ever set out to do. The last one left is to win the Olympia. And then I have everything completed.
That's awesome. Having like a life scenario where it's just like you're struggling, and many people, will think of like the military, but the next thing that I would think of is like bodybuilding. It's just it's something that can completely encompass your life and kind of give you structure, give you discipline, give you a direction, really, something to shoot for, a goal. And I think it's so cool, hearing your story, that is kind of like what happened for you as well. And it's, to me, I always think, you can try to do something, you can try to shoot for a goal, but you may or may not complete that goal, but you're always going to like do something in the meantime, or run into another, door, another opportunity in the meantime, that those are going to take you places you never thought that, you could possibly go. But it's just all started because you took that first step. And I think that's such a cool, bodybuilding is such a cool avenue to take that first step in.
I mean, I don't think that I would ever like say that I would regret like what happened, because if you can take a negative and turn it into a positive, that's literally what you have to do. And I have a feeling like if I didn't have the DUIs and the house arrest, and I didn't have the eating disorder, would I even be here? Like, would this even be like my career? And would I've even climbed, the ladder as high as I've climbed, and seen the people that I've seen, and stepped on stages that I never thought I did? So everything that happens in the past happens for a reason, is what I believe. So you just have to keep running with it. And I think that all the downfalls and all the disrupts that we always have makes us a better, stronger person, and then makes us our will and determination to succeed even that much higher.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's something that is a little bit like, um, I don't want to say, I think it's something that we fear a lot these days, like with with the youth or with people who, we care about. It's something like we won't let people fail, or we won't let them kind of get in a tough situation and see if they can get out of it. I think, of course, you want to like take care of the people you care about, but at the same time, I think you have to give people an opportunity to figure out how to, um, not necessarily survive, but really figure out how to like do something. And like you said, I think most stories come from a tough situation, a rocky past, some type of overcoming something.
Learn. You know what I mean? You got to learn from mistakes. And if there is no mistakes, you're never going to learn, or maybe you're not going to try as hard. So it's one of those things like where you just have to keep going. And then that's what I said, like, I'm like living proof. I mean, everything that I have set out to do, I've done. There's not one thing that I can say that, oh crap, I have to go back and, redo something. I mean, like I said, the last of it is just the Olympia. And then it's like, okay, we're as high as we can go. Like, now what do we do? We're expanding the gym. Like, we're just keep constantly progressing. And I don't want to say like this in a weird way, but it was like once we got, settled in with the gym, but it was almost like we're bored. Like we know we can do more. So it was like, what can we do to push the limits and get ourselves more of a hype to try to like escalate this whole situation? And then we just decided that, it's time. Like, we need to expand and just, see what we can do.
Yeah, and it sounds kind of like you're getting into that comfort zone a lot of times whenever you're hitting these goals, oh, now I'm comfortable where I am. What can I do next to kind of get out of my comfort zone? And that's what it takes to achieve that next goal.
Absolutely. I think that's literally the fuel. Like, you're on a hype because you did it, and then now you're like, okay, I gotta level up and I gotta go more. Like, this is a whole different, game, a whole different level. And then, what can we do? What can we bring? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy when you look back and you're like, you think how did I get here?
Mhm.
It's just like these small steps. Like you said, it's just leveling up one small goal, one small victory at a time. And then all of a sudden, winning the Olympia, it's not necessarily like it's not a small step, but it's like from where you are now to getting there is such a smaller step than when you started to getting, to the Olympia stage. Even it's like, don't be afraid to do the work. Don't be afraid to put the time in, because that goal, that crazy goal that you might have is going to seem way less crazy in, 5 years and 10 years when you're, 90% there.
We speak in colleges a lot, and it's about breaking the norms, being different, and doing things that, you didn't think that you would do. And, one of the times somebody asked me, like, did you ever think like of your younger self that you would get this far? And I was like, absolutely not. Like, like we all live on a dream, and we're like, 20 years old, 19 years old, whatever. And we're like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. And then it's like, then you like seriously fast forward and you're like, holy crap, like I did everything that in my head back then I wanted to do. And that's the wild part of it. But it was the journey of getting there, because there's so many years in between, and we can't forget, where we came from, what got us here, and the people that were always there to help support you get there.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the beautiful part too of like doing, taking the time to do it. And people who kind of have like overnight success, if you want to call it that, 1 year, 2 years versus 10 years, 15 years. And then you see those maybe people who have that quick success. A lot of times they can't handle the big jump because they haven't gone through the failures, or they haven't gone through the struggles, and they can't necessarily appreciate it the same way. So, even the fact of hey, it took me a long time, even that is something to be grateful about, because it just prepares it kind of prepares your nervous system or whatever for being at the place that you are now.
Yeah, I mean, when my last show in Indy, I talked about that. It was like, okay, I'm 15 years into this sport, and Indy was the first year that I actually literally just kind of like dropped it all and was like, I'm doing this. Like, and the only thing that clicked in my head was like, runway model, bitch. Like, like just relax and just have a good time. And like, it was literally 15 years it took me to actually keep it so slow for my prejudge, routine. And I was like, wow, that's what it's supposed to feel like. and you could tell and you can preach it to everybody, but and it's hard for yourself because everybody gets nervous, no matter what show you're doing. But it was like the first time in 15 years that I was like actually comfortable on stage.
Yeah. Ready to take your supplements to the next level? 2NS is here to help. 2NS strives to help you attain the highest degree of health and performance. Combining cutting-edge science and the best from nature, 2NS gives fitness enthusiasts and athletes the fuel they need. Check them out at secondnaturesupplements.com. That's 2ndnaturesupplements.com. This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout. And I mean, you look at most of the most successful athletes or people in anything, and it's like, all we think about is, Michael Jordan in the 90s instead of, Michael Jordan in the 80s, and he's getting beat in the playoffs and he's like failing and he's like, what's next? Oh, let's go lift some weights, get stronger. Let's work on this shot. And, that's the work it takes. It's not for most people, it's not that quick. Get into the league, dominate, win your Super Bowl or win your, get to the Olympia in a year, whatever. Takes that time. It takes the real like life experience, I think. But yeah, so whenever, you kind of mentioned an eating disorder, but whenever you first got into bodybuilding, were there any other aspects of the sport that you struggled with?
I think it was like, I was in figure. So I did figure for the first, the learning part of it. And then we decided to take the jump into bodybuilding. That would have probably been like the hardest because I did go from like 120 to 180, like really quick. So it was like, making myself be adaptable to food, knowing that it was fuel. But to get to the point where I was like this skinny twig to like not being able to bend over and tie my shoe or get off the couch was like really bad. But it was just, and I still struggle with it now, like I got up to 190. I've never in my life been this heavy and I don't like it. Like I know I need to do it in order to do what we need to do to get to the Olympia, but I'm ready to come back down, so it is uncomfortable, but we know as athletes that we do this. There's a lot of people that can't get to that point of that off season, but I'd say like in the bodybuilding as a whole, it's accepting yourself, both in off season and in season. I did a calendar, I believe it was in 2020 or 2019, one of those two. And I made sure that I did half and half. So I did half of the photo shoots in season and I did half of them in off season to kind of showcase that you can be beautiful at either type, like of body weight that you are. Because a lot of girls won't post anything, in their off season. So you have to be comfortable with doing that. But I'd say that would probably be the hardest, is accepting that you need to put on weight in order to make improvements.
And did you ever find that was kind of a struggle to like, make improvement because you were always, maybe early in your career, you didn't want to put on that weight that you needed to put on, you're trying to stay small or trying to stay, too lean for, the whole year. Did you ever have that kind of happen to yourself?
I think what happened with me was like, it was like I got really aggressive with wanting to go pro and I didn't take the time off. Like I would have a mini off season, but it was like boom, every year I was doing like 3 national shows back to back. So I never fully gave myself what I would technically call a good off season. So it was constantly jumping in. So that's where I think I made most of my mistake in my career, is if I would have literally just, took a full year off and then, made the changes that I needed to, I probably would have been pro a lot sooner. But I was just like, I was wanting that card. I was just chasing it, and you're just on that high of that dream. But I think that now if I could go back, I would have taken a few years off and really made the improvements that I needed.
And physically, an off season is an important aspect, but what do you think mentally is kind of the most important aspect of an off season?
I think it's like more, I mean, it's consuming a lot of food, your training's a lot rougher. It's hard to breathe, and like mentally you just like right now, like we ride motorcycles. So I have like all these clothes that I wear and I'm usually in prep right now. So I had to go out and buy a whole new entourage of closet so I could have clothes to wear to ride the bike. But like, and it's mentally, it really digs in my brain because I don't feel like comfortable in my own skin right now. So if we want to go out in public, it's like I want to wear something baggy. I don't want to wear something tight. So mentally, it's not the image that I like for myself because I know what I do look like on stage. So mentally, I'd say it's the body image.
Yeah. And it's crazy, the really the peak of bodybuilding is kind of like the peak physique of all people around the world, right? But
Mhm.
even an off season is still, compared to like the average person, it's still like the peak of anyone. And it's kind of crazy like what the brain will do. And it's, to me, I've always wondered like what what is it about the brain that, is it making us want to just keep pushing and keep getting better? Is it, a competitive thing? But just makes me wonder like why does the brain, you could probably ask the same question about eating disorders, but like why does the brain not, why does it do that to our, our mental state? Why can't we just be not necessarily like content, but appreciate kind of where we are, I guess is a little bit what I'm saying. And then go on to the next part.
I mean, it goes both ways though too, because even like back in whenever I was first doing it, it was like, okay, so when you were big, like you're like, yeah, I like lifting this kind of weight, like I'm filling out my shirts and this and that, and then it's like I'm never getting lean. Like you just don't want to cross back down and diet. Then once you're dieting, you're like, I'm never getting big. Like I like it this way. So it plays like two different roles, and there's that like that middle, which we call like the middle tunnel part of it, where it's, you got to make and break, which way do you want to go? And you have to accept, what you're trying to do as a goal, or do you have photo shoots and things like that? But yeah, yep.
So a big part of bodybuilding that, like I said, I'm not a competitive bodybuilder, but I really enjoy the kind of the a little bit of the lifestyle of it, the dieting, the nutrition, the thinking about the sleep, thinking about the recovery and all those kind of things. I really enjoy that aspect of it. And getting into more of like a fixed routine. And of course, like we said at the beginning, you're going to have things that throw you out of that routine. But how long did it take you to kind of get into like a routine? Like, you start out with a plan, right? And it's like, okay, let's kind of cut that out a little bit, maybe adjust this to kind of this part of the day, or maybe, whatever it is. Of course, that takes time. Like, how long did it take you to find a real routine that was like, this is a sustainable routine for me?
So in my earlier, when I was bulimic, I had an excessive like exercise regimen. It was literally 4 hours a day. It was like weight training, and then I would run, and then I would do abs, and then I would do typo, and it was just like nonstop, every single day. So but there, like you said though, it got to a point where it's like I can't fit 4 hours, or I was really starting to shut my family out, or shut social things out, because I was just so addicted to the actual training itself, but I wasn't eating because I didn't understand that side yet. So when I started working as a trainer with my fiance at a local gym, I think whenever I got into the gym and was able to train clients and then eat my food, and then I had a set time that I would personally go train, I think that is literally when it hit, because I was able to fit it in my schedule. Now I'm an addict, like with not lifting, like not missing a training day. Like I will make sure that's done. The food, yeah, I can kind of like chalk off and like mimic some things, but the training, I've always been obsessive over the training. Like that's never been a problem for me.
And having an experience with, being around and talking to so many different athletes, do you feel like some athletes, or I guess each individual athlete has like that obsession that's just a little bit different? Like maybe you have a super obsession with the training, maybe somebody else has a super obsession with the nutrition side, maybe somebody else has another addiction or obsession with, the recovery side. Like, have you found that to be true?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that, like they're pinpoint on with a diet all the time, or sometimes their training will be off, or I had an actual pro athlete ask my fiance in one of the gyms at a show, how do I stay so motivated? Because they can't do it. Like they just either they're off. I mean, they're off on everything, like training and food. They're gonna have good bad days on everything, but it is absolutely true. Yeah, more like it's not that we all are going to be excelling as all together. I mean, you do flip the switch once you're closer to a show and you know what you need to do, but like when you're like a little bit further out, or you're just living a lifestyle, it's very easy to like chalk one of the two off and not be regimented with all of them.
Yeah. And you know, what what do you think it is about the training aspect that you're, so passionate about versus the versus maybe the nutrition side or something else?
I think it's just the fact that like I love music. I love like just it's my me time. Like nobody can touch me. Like I'm there for like an hour, sometimes hour and a half, hoping not to get bothered. Some days it's 2 hours, God forbid. But it's just like because I get to listen to what I like. I get to train. I get to like, involve my brain in like what I want my body to look like. And it's really like no like interruptions. It's literally just, the food, not so much because I don't like the kitchen. I hate cooking food. I'll eat it, but I don't like cooking it because that's a whole nother, days worth of prepping food. But the training, I just like because it's just I can actually shut my brain off.
Yeah. And doing some meal prepping and focusing on my diet more to it. I kind of have the same, I didn't really think about it until you said that, but to me, it makes sense. It's like when you go work out, when you go train, most of the time, of course, you might have a commute to the gym or whatever, but like most of the time, it's productive time. Like it's your training time. Like when you, like you said, when you're cooking though, and you're focusing on diet, nutrition, it's like a lot of that time, most of that time is actually the cooking, the cleaning, the,
Yep.
prepping the food. And I never thought about it like that, but yeah, that's very true. You spend a very small amount of time actually eating, and that's the
Yep.
most obviously productive time of the whole thing.
Yep. Yeah, like we like with cooking, like our utility bills are 10 times higher than anybody else's for all this stuff like washing clothes, washing dishes. I mean, my sink's full of like Tupperware every day, and my fiance is like hating me because he always does the dishes. But I hate that part. Like, like because people don't realize like everything that goes into it. I bulk cook. So I go out and I get like 20 pounds of chicken or 20 pounds of beef. I cook it all, portion it in what my portions are, put it in Ziploc bags and put in the freezer. So my freezer is like a big venting machine to me. So I'm only cooking like maybe every 2 weeks or so. I mean, I do my rice, I do my vegetables, I do everything and I freeze it. And then I'll pull out for 3 days. I'll put them in my containers and I'm good to go. And I don't have to technically cook unless I want it like reheated or skilleted.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good idea. Like I said, I'm kind of new into this world, so I'm definitely always looking for kind of a more efficient way to do things.
That's it. One day dedicated to food prepping.
What would you say when it comes to like top level Olympia and high level bodybuilding athletes? If you had to give one or maybe two mental characteristics that just is kind of across the board, what would you say that those important characteristics are?
I would say that the focus, and the vision from each one, because not saying that like nobody ever puts 100% in, but like we know we're coming to go against the best of the best. So we have to have the right mindset, going in, knowing who we're going to go against and, having a vision of just those one certain person, that you should be targeting to try to beat, constantly. I think that that's most of it is going to be like that mindset, knowing what kind of level you need to bring in terms of, keeping full muscle bellies, bringing the strong conditioning, to go against, these top athletes, know that you need to bring your complete A game, coming in.
Yeah. Focus is definitely a it's something that we I think struggle with as a whole as a culture, just there's so many distractions, there's so many things to do. There's social media, there's Netflixes, there's parties, there's family things, there's so many things, but being able to stay focused um and then like you were talking about, like you have so much going on as well. So I mean, that just throws another layer of like all these things that you have to think about. But so I think focus is one of the most underrated aspects of
Mhm.
just being able to achieve kind of anything you want, at least achieve it in a quicker manner.
And I think like on top of that, if you had to pick another one, is just believing in yourself. I think a lot of people have a lot of self doubt just because of what you just said with social media. I have a lot of clients, even new beginners that keep like sending me pictures of like pros. I'm like, these are pros. These people have been competing for like 10 to 15 years. This is their first year. I said, go back through their social media, go to day one and see what they look like. Most people, like we talked about, post their best, pictures. I will guarantee you, and I know this for a fact, that 9 out of 10 people that post like all their good pictures on social media can't bring that to stage. They screw up something, with water, sleep, whatever, in between that intermix of peak week, but they never look like they do on social media on stage, because something gets messed up. But if you keep focusing on somebody else's prep, then your prep's going to go to crap because you're completely getting distracted by them and you're not even focusing on you and actually believing that you belong up there and that you should be where you are.
when it comes to your own prep for this upcoming Olympia, is there anything you've maybe done or gonna do or doing differently or going to focus on more for this upcoming show?
So this year is it's going to be a little different just because I am a lot bigger than what I've ever been. Going in, we did have a mini like way better off season. I the coach that I grabbed for Indy, he only had 8 weeks to fix my physique, and to me that's not a lot of time. But he really targeted and found out my body like right away. So now I gave him 20 some weeks, 30 some weeks or something, to really, sculpt. And the main goal that we had was to grow. And we've already succeeded that. So going to this prep, he's got a lot more time to do what he needs to do. But it's definitely my main focus is I know my conditioning can always come in, but it's dieting and keeping my legs full and bigger and my hamstrings and glutes a lot sharper. That's the main goal.
As far as like advice would go, for women, whether it be young women or just any woman who wants to kind of get into the sport, what would your advice be for them?
Stick to what you want to do and your belief, because number one, I mean, I train a lot of them and I've had many of them crying on my floor in my office because parents don't support it, friends don't support it, friends don't understand it, they'll make fun of you for bringing your food. So if it's really something that you want to do, then stick to it, you know what I mean? Because I always tell everybody, this is your life, you have one life to live. And if you don't want to mess it up and you don't want to live with regrets saying I wish I would have, back years from now. So, I mean, just stick to your gun, stick to your plan, stick to your vision and your dream, and literally make it happen. I mean, anything's possible. You can reach out to tons of people for information. I'm one of those ones that like, I try to help everybody that I possibly can. There's a lot that I've heard from, a lot of other pros that they're snubbing these people and these girls that are trying to inform themselves of the proper way to do this. And it hurts me that they can't take themselves off the pedestal and talk to these future generation girls that are going to make this sport continue for years to come. So I want these people to learn, especially these women. There's just so much misinformation out there, but just do it. If that's something they want to do, just constantly just stick to it. Consistency is going to be key. The more they stay on something, the better they're going to be.
Yeah, I think that's consistency has been one of the most overwhelming messages of this podcast, for the last couple of years. It's just so true. If you just stick with something, it's bound to maybe not work out the way you thought it was going to work out, but it'll work out, I think, a lot of times in your favor.
They always say something's better than nothing, so when you just first get started, you're not going to like look like Jay Cutler, and all these pros like right out of the gate, but they were once in your shoes also, so it's just like I think the most of it is taking the time with it and enjoying the journey. Like everybody today wants it now because like that's just the way that social media, is pushing, and the way that they're seeing like what other competitors look like and things like that. But everybody is in their own lane, and everybody's going to go at their own pace. Everybody's genetics are different, and it's going to take time to figure out like what their body likes. Does it like carbs? Does it like fat? Does it like high protein? Does it like more high intensity training? Does it like more, of the weights with, more rest periods? It's going to be trial and error in the beginning, and you got to just figure it out, write it down, make mental notes of it, and then just keep working at it.
Yeah. And I think that's important to really hear that for people, because a lot of times we want the trending thing. Like if somebody, whoever's on top, like, oh, let's do their workouts, let's eat the way they eat, find something that it works for you. And like you said, it's going to take time and it's going to be a little frustrating, of course. And it's going to, maybe you're going to have some setbacks, but ultimately you're going to be learning and you're going to be figuring it out. So just, like you said, don't give up, be consistent with it. And, I think, like you said, good things will come. Something is better than nothing. And at the end of the day, a lot of some things added up is a lot of times better than that one thing you thought you wanted.
Yep. And then you'd be amazed at how far they go. We did the opposing clinic in Indy, I want to say like 6 weeks ago. And to see the couple of the girls that were actually in the posing clinic on stage posing, like was just so like exciting to see because their posing got so much fixed from like those weeks in between, and they learned and they took what they learned and then they performed it on stage, that way. So that was very interesting to see, to watch them change and grow and within those short amount of weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Good direction is, like you said, there's so many people now with social media that can offer good support, good help, good education things like that. So, like I said before, I really appreciate you coming on for that reason.
I mean, that too. I mean, like we're all, let's just say we all go to the stage. We all want to compete, or we all, have that certain goal or whatever. And we all have something like-minded, where we want to be an athlete, competitor, or whatever. But all of our stories are so different. And not one is the same. We all are doing this for different reasons, and that's why certain people like to play basketball, or they like to do golf, or we like to bodybuild. So that's why we have so many options of what, we like to do and how we want to get there and live our life.
100%. But I think finding that and following a passion, following something that you're really enjoying and really loving to do, get up and get out there and actually, suffer, enjoy the suffering at some point. Cause we're all going to suffer. So you might as well enjoy what you're suffering with.
Yep, absolutely.
Like I said, I really appreciate you coming on. It was getting good getting to talk to you and getting to meet you. And, maybe who knows, obviously the Olympia is a very, very large event, but maybe get to meet you out there and just chat in
Absolutely.
person. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I appreciate you having me on. It'd be an honor to meet you over at the Olympia.
Awesome. Well, best of luck over the next, what you said it was
15
20 weeks?
weeks.
How many?
16.
16. Okay, yeah, 16 weeks. So best of luck over the next 16 weeks.
Thank you very much.